But Ian, I think something you touch on, and it's a very interesting point in the book, is that you say the Chinese Communist Party has dropped an act that what we're seeing now is what the goal always was. The goal being, world domination, that shared future of mankind. That's interesting because, as you mentioned, there was sort of this war in the China policy crowd of saying, oh, no, it's actually just Xi Jinping that is the problem. The Communist Party's fine. We can go back to, if we oust Xi Jinping, we can go back to the way things were. That's sort of the longer telegram thing. So what is going on there? Was this an act? Is it Xi Jinping himself?
No, it's absolutely not Xi Jinping. It's the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, Xi Jinping is a symptom, but he's not the disease. The party has produced one dictator after the next since starting with Mao. And even Deng Xiaoping, who is revered, especially in the China studies community and the business community, as being this great visionary, this is the guy who ordered tanks to kill thousands, if not tens of thousands of students, to literally run over them in Tiananmen Square and in the streets of Beijing. He was an absolute dictator. And the same applied to Jiang Zemin, the same applied to Hu Jintao. The only difference with Xi Jinping is he's more transparent. The Chinese Communist Party is not transparent, although they are about their ultimate objectives, but about their means and their ways and their covert operations around the world to get people to self-censor, for example. That happens behind the curtain, the veil. That happens under a cloak of opacity. But Xi Jinping himself is much more openly dictatorial. He is engaged in now we're going on 10 years of nonstop purging, nonstop repression with no let up, no break, not even the veneer of inner party politics. So it used to be the idea that different factions would rotate in and out of power, that there were informal term limits that were honored by the chairman of the CCP. That's, of course, Xi Jinping has gotten completely away from that. He's enshrined his own personal ideology into the Constitution of China. He has not cultivated anybody to succeed him. He looks more and more like Mao. He looks more and more like Stalin. He looks more and more like Pol Pot or Kim Jong-il. And this is something that we've seen in a lot of communist dictatorships, where there'll be this moment where they get very, very excessive in their repression. And Xi Jinping is that moment, and it will continue after him, that there will be more Maos or Xi Jinpings until the Chinese Communist Party disappears.
But now you did mention when you were in China, there was a more positive view of America. And now today, America is what's being targeted. Is that Xi Jinping, or is that what inevitably would have happened?
Well, nothing is inevitable in foreign policy or in history, right? So we can't say for sure. There's no, time machine that we could take back to 1980 or 1990 and just slip Xi Jinping a Mickey and have some other guy come into power and succeed politically where he failed. So we don't know. It's a really terrific question. It's a really interesting question, Chris. But I think it was highly likely to occur no matter who was in power. I think if somebody like Hu Jintao was in power, or Bo Xilai, or Li Keqiang, or Wang Yang, whoever's in that seat is going to use these same tools, because that's what they are. These are just instruments. They're weapons. They're tools of statecraft. They get turned on the Uyghurs, on the Tibetans, on Falun Gong. They get turned on the Japanese. And of course, we've seen this extreme, just terrible, monstrous anti-Japanese sentiment get cultivated in China. And then from time to time, they will lash out at the Japanese. And now it's being turned on us. And it will be turned on others. It's been turned on Australia. When the government of Australia reached out and they asked for an free and open international investigation into the origins of the COVID-19 catastrophe, the pandemic. That was China's government response, was to lash out and instill a sense of anger in the Chinese people against the Aussies, who are some of the most wonderful people on the planet. I mean, it's really hard not to like somebody from Australia, and that's what they've done. And so it just gets turned on one country after the next. Basically, anybody who doesn't do exactly what Beijing wants them to do gets victimized by this.
I mean, if you think about it, like, since their openly stated goal is, some form of international communism, sooner or later that is going to have to create conflict with the West, with democracies.
Yeah.
It's not a peaceful relationship.
And I think, as we had in our episode, the one that talked about Blinken's speech, I think this is one of the things where the current administration just doesn't understand why the CCP is always going to see the U.S. as an existential threat. Like, I feel like a lot of their the speech was kind of trying to head off some Chinese propaganda, like the part about we're not trying to change China's like system of governance, et cetera, trying to head off the propaganda that the U.S. is calling for regime change in China, et cetera. But it doesn't matter what was in Blinken's speech in a certain sense. Like, they would always accuse the U.S. of that because they just see the U.S. as an existential threat to their ideology, to their system of government, because we are a liberal democracy and because the U.S. has historically, been trying to, I mean, this sounds corny, but defend freedom around the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, that has been U.S. foreign policy. And so, like, no matter how you try to say that, like, we're not trying to challenge the CCP is going to see you as, the challenge.
I mean, the U.S. has been trying to keep international shipping lanes open and free for decades. The Chinese Communist Party, especially in the South China Sea, wants to control them. Inevitably, that's going to be a conflict.
That's such an important point, Chris. But before I jump in there, I have to tell you, I'm very thirsty. So if it's okay with you guys, I'd just like to take a quick break here for a refreshing drink here.
Oh, good. Enjoy that. I bet it tastes better and cleaner.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a China Uncensored mug. Yeah, this is my favorite mug. It really is. There's no better way to enjoy a cup of coffee or a cup of tea in the morning. I mean, it's pretty much how I start my every day. The book, this book here, the Final Struggle, I probably could not have completed it. I would not have had the energy were it not for my daily cup of coffee in this particular mug.
I mean, great things are possible for anyone who drinks out of such a mug. But gosh, Matt, is there a place where somebody watching could get a mug of their own?
I suppose, like, if you were to somehow go to ChinaUncensored.tv/merchandise, you might find it there along with a selection of T-shirts. But I mean, that's if you just happen to go to, accidentally type in ChinaUncensored.tv/merchandise.
Do you think if somebody were to do that, they would also write an incredible book about China?
I would say I don't want to get sued, but I do think it's inevitable.
I also could not help but notice that unlike almost all other mugs on the market today, this mug is made proudly in the United States of America.
Wow. Whoever made that decision must really know a lot about geopolitics.
That was so hard to find a mug. That was
so hard.
It was incredibly difficult. Get your own mug while you can. Supplies are limited and running out.